Hello, this is part two of Mice and Men. We'll be picking up on page 10, where we saw the two characters going down to the pond and they're getting ready to go to the river, I believe it was actually, Lenny and George. And they're getting ready to go to their first, try to go to this farm to work. I wish we'd get rabbits pretty soon, George. They ain't so little. The hell with rabbits, and you ain't to be trusted with no live mice. Your Aunt Clara gave you a rubber mouse and you wouldn't have nothing to do with it. It wasn't no good to pet, said Lenny. The flame of the sunset lifted from the mountaintop, and dusk came into the valley, and half darkness came in among the willows of the sycamores. A big carp rose to the surface of the pool, gulped air, and then sank mysteriously into the dark water again, leaving widening rings in the water. Overhead, the leaves whisked again in little puffs of willows. Cotton blew down and landed on the pool surface. You gonna get that wood? George demanded. There's plenty right up there against the back of that sycamore, floodwater wood. Now you get it. Lenny went beside the tree and brought out a liter of dry leaves and twigs. He threw them in a heap on the old ash pile and went back for more and more. It was almost night now. A dove's wings whistled over the water. George walked to the fire pile and lighted the dry leaves. The flame cracked up among the twigs and fell to work. George undid his bindle and brought out 3 cans of beans. He stood them about the fire, closing the blaze, but not quite touching the flame. There's enough beans for 4 men, George said. Lenny watched him from over the fire. He said patiently, I like them with ketchup. Well, you ain't got any, George exploded. Whatever we ain't got, that's what you want. God Almighty, if I was alone, I could live so easy. I could go get a job and work and no trouble, no mess at all. And when the end of the month come, I could take my $50 and go into town and get whatever I want. Why could I stay in a cat house all night? I could eat any place I want, hotel or any place, and order any damn thing I could think of. And I could do all that every damn month, get a gallon of whiskey or set it in a pool room and play cards or shoot pool. Lenny knelt and looked over the fire at the angry George. And Lenny's face was drawn with terror. And what I got, George went on furiously, I got you. You can't keep a job and you lose me every job I get. Just keep me shoving all over the country all the time. And that ain't the worst. You get in trouble, you do bad things, and I got to get you out. His voice rose nearly to a shout. You crazy son of a bitch. You keep me in hot water all the time. He took the elaborate manner of little girls when they were mimicking one another. Just wanted to feel that girl's dress. Just wanted to pet it like it was a mouse. Well, how the hell did she know you just wanted to feel her dress? She jerks back and you hold on like it was a mouse. She yells, and we got to hide in an irrigation ditch all day with guys looking for us. And we got to sneak out in the dark and get out of the country all the time, something like that, all the time. I wish I could put you in a cage with about 1 million mice and let you have fun. His anger left him suddenly. He looked across the fire at Lenny's anguished face, and then he looked ashamedly at the flames. It was quite dark now, but the fire lighted the trunks of the trees and the curving branches overhead. Lenny crawled slowly and cautiously around the fire until he was close to George. He sat back on his heels. George turned the bean cans so that another side faced the fire. He pretended to be unaware of Lenny so close beside him. George, very softly, no answer. George, what do you want? I was only fooling, George. I don't want no ketchup. I wouldn't eat no ketchup if it was right here beside me. If it was here, you could have some. But I wouldn't eat none, George. I'd leave it all for you. You could cover your beans with it, and I wouldn't touch none of it. George still stared morosely at the fire. When I think of the swell time I could have without you, I go nuts. I never get no peace. Lenny still knelt. He looked off into the darkness across the river. George, you want I should go away and leave you alone? Where the hell could you go? Well, I could go off in the hills there, someplace I'd find a cave. Yeah? How'd you eat? You ain't got sense enough to get nothing to eat. I'd find things, George. I don't need no nice food with ketchup. I'd lay out in the sun and nobody hurt me. And if I found a mouse, I could keep it. Nobody would take it away from me. George looked quickly and searchingly at him. I've been mean, ain't I? If you don't want me, I can go off in the hills and find a cave. I can go away anytime. No, look, I was just fooling, Lenny, because I want you to stay with me. Trouble with mice is you always kill them. He paused. Tell you what I'll do, Lenny. First chance I get, I'll give you a pup. Maybe you wouldn't kill it. That'd be better than mice, and you could pet it harder. Lenny avoided the bait. He had a sense his he had sensed his advantage. If you don't want me, you just you only just gotta say so, and I'll go off in those hills right there, right up in those hills, and live by myself. And I won't get no mice stole from me. George said, I want you to stay with me, Lenny. Jesus Christ. Somebody would shoot you for a coyote if you was by yourself. No, you stay with me. Your Aunt Clara wouldn't like you running off by yourself, even if she is dead. Lenny spoke craftily. Tell me, like you done before. Tell you what? About the rabbits. George snapped. You ain't gonna put nothing over on me. Lenny pleaded. Come on, George. Tell me. Please, George. Like you done before. You get a kick out of that, don't you? All right. I'll tell you. And then we'll eat our supper. George's voice became deeper. He repeated his words rhythmically as though he had said them many times before. Guys like us, that work on ranches, are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family. They don't belong no place. They come to a ranch and work up a steak. And when they go into town and blow their steak, and the first thing you know, they're pounding their tail on some other ranch. They ain't got nothing to look ahead to. Lenny was delighted. That's it. That's it. Now tell how it is with us. George went on. With us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. We don't have to sit in no bar room blowing in our jack just because we got no place else to go. If them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody gives a damn, but not us. Lenny broke in. But not us. And why? Because I got you to look after me and you got me to look after you. And that's why, he laughed delightedly. Go on now, George. You got it by heart. You can do it yourself. No, you. I forget some of the little things. Tell me how it's going to be. Okay, someday we're going to get the jack together and we're going to have a little house and a couple of acres and a cow and some pigs and live off the fat of the land, Lenny shouted, and have rabbits. Go on, George. Tell about what we're going to have in the garden, about the rabbits in the cages, and about the rain in the winter and the stove, and how thick the cream is on the milk like you can hardly cut it. Tell about that, George. Why don't you do it yourself? You know all of it. No, you tell it. It ain't the same if I tell it. Go on, George. How I get to tend the rabbits? Well, said George, we'll have a big vegetable patch and a rabbit hutch and chickens. And when it rains in the winter, we'll just say the hell with going to work and we'll build up a fire in the stove and sit around it and listen to the rain coming down on the roof. Nuts. He took out his pocket knife. I ain't got time for no more. He drove his knife through the top of one of the bean cans, sawed out the top, and passed the can to Lenny. Then he opened a second can. From his side pocket, he brought out 2 spoons and passed one of them to Lenny. They sat by the fire and filled their mouths with beans and chewed mightily. A few beans slipped out of the side of Lenny's mouth. George gestured with his spoon. What are you going to say tomorrow when the boss asks you questions? Lenny stopped chewing and swallowed. His face was concentrated. I ain't going to say a word. Good boy. That's fine, Lenny. Maybe you're getting better. Maybe we get the couple acres. I can let you tend the rabbits all right. Especially if you remember as good as that. Lenny choked with pride. I can remember, he said. George motioned with his spoon again. Look, Lenny, I want you to look around here. You can remember this place, can't you? The ranch is about a quarter mile up that way. Just follow the river. Sure, said Lenny. I can remember this. Didn't I remember about not going to say a word? Of course you did. Well, look, Lenny, if you just happen to get in trouble like you always done before, I want you to come right here and hide in this brush. Hide in the brush, said Lenny slowly. Hide in the brush till I come for you. Can you remember that? Sure I can, George. Hide in the brush till you come. But you ain't going to get in no trouble because if you do, I won't let you tend to the rabbits. He threw his empty bean can off into the brush. I won't get into no trouble, George. I ain't going to say a word. Okay, bring your bindle over here by the fire. It's going to be nice sleeping here. Look up and the leaves don't build up no more fire. We'll have to let her die down. They made their beds on the sand, and as the blaze dropped from the fire, the spear of light grew smaller. The curly branches disappeared, and only a faint glimmer showed where the tree trunks were. From the darkness, Lenny called, George, you asleep? No. What do you want? Let's have different colored rabbits, George. Sure we will, George said sleepily. Red and blue and green rabbits, Lenny, millions of them. Furry ones, George, like I seen in the fair in Sacramento. Sure, furry ones. Cause I can just as well go away, George, and live in a cave. You can just as well go to hell, said George. Shut up now. The red light dimmed on the coals. Up the hill from the river, a coyote yammered, and a dog answered from the other side of the stream. The sycamore leaves whispered in a little night breeze. And that's the end of chapter 1. So off to a pretty good start so far, Mice and Men. Let's go ahead and start chapter 2. The bunkhouse was a long, rectangular building. Inside the walls were whitewashed and the floor unpainted. And 3 walls, there were small square windows. And in the fourth, a solid door with a wooden latch. Against the walls were 8 bunks, 5 of them made up with blankets, and the other 3 showing their burlap ticking. Over each bunk, there was nailed an apple box with an opening forward so that it made 2 shelves for the personal belongings of the occupant of the bunk. And these shelves were loaded with little articles, soap, talcum powder, razors, and those Western magazines ranchmen love to read and scoff at and secretly believe. And there were medicines on the shelves and little vials, combs from nails on the box side, a few neckties. Near one wall was a black cast iron stove, its stovepipe going straight up through the ceiling. In the middle of the room stood a big square table littered with playing cards, and around were a group of boxes for the players to sit on. At about 10 o'clock in the morning, the sun threw a bright, dust laden bar through one of the side windows, and in and out of the beam, flies shoot like rushing stars. The wooden latch raised, the door opened, and a tall, stoop shouldered man came in. He was dressed in blue jeans and he carried a big push broom in his left hand. Behind him came George, and behind George, Lenny. The boss was expecting you last night, the old man said. He was sore as hell when you wasn't here to go out this morning. He pointed with his right arm, and out the sleeve came a round, slick-like wrist, but no hand. You can have them two beds, he said, indicating two bunks near the stove. George stepped over and threw his blankets down on the burlap sack of straw that was a mattress. He looked into the box shelf and he picked a small yellow can from it. Say, what the hell is this? I don't know, said the old man. Says positively kills lice, roaches, and other scoundrels. What the hell kind of bed you giving us anyways? We don't want no pants rabbits. The old swamper shifted his broom and held it between his elbow and his side while he held out his hand for the can. He studied the label carefully. Tell you what, he said finally, the last guy that had this bed was a blacksmith, hell of a nice fella, and as clean as a guy as you want to meet. Used to wash his hands even after he ate. Then how come he got graybacks? George said, working up a slow anger. Lenny put his bindle on the neighboring bunk and sat down. He watched George with open mouth. Tell you what, said the old swapper, this here blacksmith, name of Whitey, was the kind of guy that would put that stuff around even if there wasn't no buzz. He just makes sure, see? Tell you what he used to do at meals, he'd peel his boiled potatoes and he'd take out every little spot, no matter what kind, before he ate it. And if there was a red splotch on an egg, he'd scrape it off. Finally, quit about the food. That's the kind of guy he was, clean. Used to dress up Sundays even when he wasn't going no places, put on a necktie even, and then sat in the bunkhouse. I ain't so sure, said George skeptically. What did you say he quit for? The old man put the yellow can in his pocket and he rubbed his bristly white whiskers with his knuckles. Why? He just quit. The way a guy will. Says it was the food, just wanted to move, didn't give no other reason but the food. Just saying, give me my time one night the way any guy would. George lifted his tick and looked underneath it. He leaned over, inspected the sack lean closely. Immediately, Lenny got up and did the same with his bed. Finally, George seemed satisfied. He unrolled his bindle and put things on the shelf, his razor and bar of soap, his comb and bottle of pills, his liniment, his leather wristband, and he made his bed up neatly with blankets. The old man said, I guess the boss will be out here in a minute. He was sure burned when you wasn't here this morning. Come right in when we was eating breakfast and says, where the hell's them new men? And he give the stable buck hell too. George patted a wrinkle out of his bed and sat down. Give the stable buck hell, he said. Sure. You see the stable bucks inward. Huh? A black guy. A black guy, huh? Yeah, nice fella too. Got a crooked back where a horse kicked him. The boss gives him hell when he's mad, but the stable buck don't give a damn about that. He reads a lot. Got books in his room. What kind of guy is the boss? George asked. Well, he's pretty nice fella. Gets pretty mad sometimes, but he's pretty nice. Tell you what, know what he done Christmas? Bring a gallon of whiskey right in here. It says, drink hearty, boys. Christmas comes but once a year. The hell he did. Whole gallon. Yes, sir. Jesus, we had fun. They let the black guy come in that night. Little Skinner named Smitty took after the black guy. Done pretty good too. The guys wouldn't let him use his feet. So the black guy got him. If he couldn't use his feet, Smitty says he would have killed the black guy. The guy said on the account of the black guy got a crooked back, Smitty can't use his feet. He paused in relish of the memory. After the guys went into Soledad and raised hell, I didn't want to go in there. I ain't got the poop no more. Lenny was just finishing making his bed. The wooden latch raised again and the door opened. A little stocky man stood in the open doorway. He wore blue jean trousers, a flannel shirt, a black unbuttoned vest, and a black coat. His thumbs were stuck in his belt on each side of a square steel buckle. On his head was a solid brown Stetson hat, and he wore high-heeled boots and spurs to prove he was not a laboring man. The old swamper looked quickly at him, and then shuffled to the door, rubbing his whiskers with his knuckles as he went. Them guys just come, he said, and shuffled past the boss and out the door. The boss stepped into the room with the short, quick steps of a fat-legged man. I wrote Murray and Reddy. I wanted 2 men this morning. You got your work slips? George reached into his pocket and produced the slips and handed them to the boss. It wasn't Motre and Reddy's fault. Says right here on the slip that you got to be here for work this morning. George looked down at his feet. Bus driver, give us a bum steer, he said. We had to walk 10 miles. Says we were here. Says we was here when we wasn't. We couldn't get no rides in the morning. The boss squinted his eyes. Well, I had to send out the grain team short 2 buckers. Won't do any good to go out now till after dinner. He pulled his time book out of the pocket and opened it where a pencil was stuck between the leaves. George scowled meaningly at Lenny, and Lenny nodded to show that he understood. The boss lit the pencil. What's your names? George Milton. And what's yours? George said, his name is Lenny Small. The names were entered in the book. Let's see. This is the 20th noon. The 20th. He closed the book. Where you boys been working? Up around weed, said George. You too, Lenny? Yeah, him too, said George. The boss pointed a playful finger at Lenny. He ain't much of a talker, is he? No, he ain't. But he's sure a hell of a good worker, strong as a bull. Lenny smiled to himself. Strong as a bull, he repeated. George scowled at him, and Lenny dropped his head in shame at having forgotten. The boss said suddenly, listen, Small. Lenny raised his head. What can you do? In a panic, Lenny looked at George for help. He can do anything you tell him, said George. He's a good skinner. He can wrestle grain bags, drive a cultivator. He can do anything. Just give him a try. The boss turned on George. Then why don't you at least let him answer? What you trying to put over? George broke in loudly. Oh, I ain't saying he's bright. He ain't. But I say he's a gosh dang good worker. He could put up 400-pound bill. The boss deliberately put the little book in his pocket. He hooked his thumbs in his belt and squinted, one eye nearly closed. Say, what you selling? Huh? I said, what say you got in this guy? You taking his pay away from him? No, of course I ain't. Why you think I'm selling him out? Well, I never see one guy take so much trouble for another guy. I just like to know what your interest is. George said, he's my cousin. I told his old lady I take care of him. He got kicked in the head by a horse when he was a kid. He's all right. Just ain't bright. But he can do anything you tell him. The boss turned half away. Well, God knows he don't need any brains to butt barley bags. But don't you try putting nothing over, Milton. I got my eye on you. Why'd you quit and weed? Job was done, said George promptly. What kind of job? We was digging a cesspool. All right. But don't try putting nothing over because you can't get away with nothing. I see wise guys before. Going out with the grain teams after dinner, they're picking up barley at threshing machine. Go out with Slim's team. Slim, yeah, big tall Skinner. You'll see him at dinner. He turned abruptly and went to the door, but before he was out, turned and looked for a long moment at the two men. When the sound of the footsteps had died away, George turned on Lenny. So you wasn't going to say a word. You wasn't going to leave your big flapper shut and let me do all the talking. Damn near lost us the job. Lenny stared hopelessly at his hands. I forgot, George. Yeah, you forgot. You always forget. And I got to talk you out of it. He sat down heavily on the bunk. Now he's got his eyes on us. Now we got to be careful and not make no slips. Keep your big flapper shut after this. He fell morsely silent. George, what do you want now? I wasn't kicked in the head with no horse, was I, George? Be a damn good thing if you was, George said viciously. Save everybody a hell of a lot of trouble. You said I was your cousin, George. Well, that was a lie. And I'm damn glad it was. If I was a relative of yours, I'd shoot myself. He stopped suddenly, stepped to the open front door and peered out. Say, what the hell you doing? Listening? The old man came slowly into the room. He had his broom in his hand, and at his heels there walked a drag-footed sheepdog, gray of muzzle and with pale, blind old eyes. The dog struggled lamely to the side of the room and lay down, grunting softly to himself and licking his grizzled, moth-eaten coat. The swamper watched him until he was settled. I wasn't listening. I was just standing in the shade a minute stretching my dog. I just now finished swamping out the wash house. You was poking your big ears in our business, George said. I don't like nobody to get nosy. The old man looked uneasily from George to Lenny and then looked back. I just come there, he said. I didn't hear nothing you guys was saying. I ain't interested in nothing you was saying. A guy on a ranch don't never listen, nor he don't never ask no questions. Damn right he don't, said George, slightly mollified. Nor if he wants to stay working long, but he was reassured by the swamper's defense. Come on in and sit down a minute, he said. That's a hell of an old dog. Yeah, I had him ever since he was a pup. God, he was a good sheepdog when he was younger. He stood his broom against the wall and he rubbed his white bristled cheek with his knuckle. How do you like the boss? He asked. Pretty good, seemed all right. He's a nice feller, the swamper agreed. You gotta take him right. At that moment, a young man came into the bunkhouse, a thin young man with a brown face, with brown eyes and a head tightly curled hair. He wore a work glove on his left hand, and like the boss, he wore high-heel boots. See my old man, he asked. The swamper said, he was here just a minute ago, Curly. Went over to the cookhouse, I think. I'll try to catch him, said Curly. His eyes passed over the new men and stopped. He glanced closely at George and then at Lenny. His arms gradually bent at the elbows and his hands closed into fists. He sniffed and went into a slight crouch. His glance was at once calculating and pungent. Lenny squirmed under the look and shifted his feet nervously. Curly stepped gingerly close to him. You the new guys the old man was waiting for? We just came in, said George. Let the big guy talk. Lenny twisted with embarrassment. George said, suppose he don't want to talk. Curly lashed his body around. By Christ, he's got to talk when he's supposed to. What the hell you getting into it for? We traveled together, said George coldly. Oh, so it's that way. George was tense. George was tense and motionless. Yeah, it's that way. Lenny was looking helplessly to George for instruction. And you won't let the big guy talk, is that it? He can talk to if he wants to tell you anything. He nodded slightly to Lenny. We just come in, said Lenny softly. Curly stared levelly at him. Well, next time you answer when you're spoken to. He turned towards the door and walked out. His elbows were still bent a little. And so we'll go ahead and stop here on page 26. And so pretty good. So now we done seen George and Lenny. They done made it to the new bunkhouse at the new farm they're going to work at. And so we got to meet the boss and his son. And so we'll pick up there on the next read. Thanks, guys, for listening. I'll catch you guys in the next video.